Hey, it's the Chief bonding with board games. I'm with Judd Vance.
Ham tag!
There you go, Ham Tag fan. We will try to get more of those out. I still got one in the can. I just been so busy at work, haven't been able to get it out. But today we're talking about Hands in the Sea. Daniel Berger, designer. I know you've worked with him very closely, and we'll talk more about that later. And Nightworks is the company that's brought this out. Hands in the Sea is the spiritual successor of the, could you call it, of A Few Acres
Next
of
evolution,
Snow.
actually.
Okay, next evolution. From A Few Acres of Snow, the Martin Wallace game deals with deck building, hand management, more combat here.
Much more.
Much more. And Judd is going to go in. Judd's the master of this. He's been play testing and helping in development. So he's going to go in and give you a closer look. Then we'll come back. We'll give you our thoughts because this is out. It's out. All right. Go watch Judd.
Okay.
Alrighty, here we go. Here is the game. You can see the map up here. These are player mats. They normally go on the sides, one for Rome, one for Carthage, and you have your tracks here that accompany it. But I didn't want to turn it sideways because it's too hard to see the cards. Each player on his player mat, or her player mat, will have a draw deck. I did sleeve my cards. Would highly, highly recommend it. You shuffle a lot. You don't want to tear them up. They're gorgeous. These are standard Magic the Gathering size sleeves. Be sure to put them in the same color. Don't do blue for Carthage and red for Rome, because when you conquer cities, you will be taking cards from each other and you don't want it to stand out. But you'll have a draw deck that you'll be working from. Shuffling, it goes to the discard pile. When you're empty, you reshuffle, put them back here and draw. This is your Empire deck. These are the cards you can recruit, draft, pay money, get them into your, you'll put them into your discard pile usually. And you can pay double on certain units to put them directly on top. But they will go here, and then they'll eventually work back into your deck. And then over here, it's reserve. You can take cards out of your hands and stick them there to the side. You know, if you get those, you play those hand management games where, oh, I really don't want this card now, but I want it later. Stick it over there. This will where you keep track of your battles. And the strategy card, I'll talk about that in a little bit to draft. If you're familiar with acres, it helps a little bit, but if not, it's not that tough. Here is an example of a location card that you start with. You will have these cities that you can connect to from these locations. Each one of these, like this, is Lilybaeum. It's right there on the map. And the cities that connect to it by road, Panormus and Heraclea, you can see them right there. And ones you can connect to by ship, Agrigentum, Clopia, Thermae, and Utica. If I pronounce these wrong, I'm not that familiar with the pronunciations of these. Then you got icons that do certain events. That's one of the great things. There's so many different uses and so many different ways. If you want to expand your empire, like for here, you start at Lilybaeum and set the card in the discard. Say, I'm going to connect to one of these locations, in this case Heraclea, because I already have Panormus. And that's saying you need a cart. So you put that in your discard, you follow it up with a cart symbol down here in the bottom. And then you'd reach over and put one of your markers on the board. And then you would reach over here and find a card and stick it in your discard, and now it's part of yours. It's fattening your deck, which can be good, can be bad, depending on what the card is. But your deck starts to thicken. But these are going to score you victory points. Okay, so that's just a basic example of something you would do. That's not really like you've conquered the location or you've settled it. It's more like forming an alliance. And then you got developments where you can flip these into bigger buildings, and that's more like a garrison of sorts. It's a stronger alliance. It's going to score a different type of victory points. But you got these different icons that can do different things in the rules. Some, like if they have coin, you can discard it and just take that much money. Ships, you can connect to locations by ships that have one. You can start naval battles with them. Colonists are used. It's like impressment to build up, like the legions, to draft from your own people without mercenaries. Use it to build ships, develop cities. Any place that has a colonist icon on it, you have to follow up with one of these icon cards. Swords are used for battles, so these all have different meanings and can do multiple tasks. So you go through, you play your cards, you do your various, you expand your empire, which is going to score you victory points. When you get to the end, this is really unique to this game as compared to Acres. This has turns. The last card in the Carthage deck is the campaign card. You will stop at that point and follow the directions. You'll shuffle your discards, draw back to your hand limit. Then you'll resolve a random event, which I'll get to in a second. You'll stop and score. It's like an administrative phase. You're going to score victory points, not on anything you controlled. So Carthage isn't going to get for what they started the game with. It's what they expanded into. For neutral territories or enemy territories, you get them on your side, you score victory points. Then you're going to stop and get money. Those big buildings, it's like a stronger alliance. You're able to get more resources from them. So you collect money for each one of those. In Acres, they doubled the victory points of the areas. In this, they're more money generating machines. At the end of the game, you'll score victory point for each one you have. But their bigger purpose is making money. You'll do that. You'll cycle the strategy cards, which I'll get to in a second. And then you go on to the next turn. But this game has a limited amount of turns, up to 12. There's a way it could end earlier. I'll get into that in a second. But this is very unique to this game. You bring these units into you have to collect money along the way. These are some examples of some of these empire cards. Elephants, love these guys. I love them when they work. I hate them when they don't work, and I hate them when they work for my opponent when he's Carthage. It takes 4 money to get this card into your deck. You're going to roll a die. I don't know if you can see that or not. On a roll of 1, he 0 strength, 2 to 3, he does 1 strength, 4 to 5, he does 2 strength, and 6, he does 3 strengths. Very powerful, very unpredictable. Numidian cavalry, if you're familiar with them, excellent horse riders. They're double strength cavalry. They can be used to raid. Raiding locations, you're right up next to somebody. Let's say he's here. You play the card, say, I'm going to raid. You have to raid from a location that's adjacent and that's in supply. You put it down. They either have to have a card that says can block a raid, or they play the location card. If not, you get to pick it up, stick it on your side, it's empty, and then if you have the card, you can move in there and take it over yourself. Those captured buildings are going to score you victory points at the end. Also, if you conquer them in combat, which I'll cover in a second, you pick it up, put it in yours, and move in with your own. This heavy infantry, light infantry, they can block raids. They're a lot cheaper if you notice. This takes 6 and a colonist card, 2. Let's see, fortifications, that offers combat bonuses. Generals, I'll cover a little bit of that. Anyways, you draft these, you put them here. The great thing is they make you stronger. The bad thing is as your deck gets fat, it's hard to get the card you want. So if you're familiar with deck builders, you'll see it there. Now let me talk about these strategy cards, because these are pretty neat. This is very unique to this game. You have these strategy cards over here, and what they do is you purchase them and they legally allow you to cheat. Here's an example of them. Celtic infantry. It says that blue C means only Carthage can have this card. If you're willing to pay for it, which costs 2, you start all land battles with an extra strength when attacking. The reserves, I talked about those earlier. You can put cards in here to hold. You can put up to 5 in there, and then it costs, to pull them out, you have to pull them all out at once, and you have to spend 1 silver for each one in there. This is the deep reserve. You can put 7 in there. You pull them out for free. Very cool card. And Devotio is this other one. Anytime you have something relating to elephants, whether the elephants are rolling or the V-lights, which are Roman units that potentially are stronger when elephants are involved. They were skirmishers. You're going to roll a die for them, and let's see. There they are. 1 strength. If elephants are involved, roll a die, 50% chance. They're worth 2 strength. Those die rolls and random event die rolls go 1 in your favor. What you do is you spend the money, you stick it in your area, the card's active, and then you get all the advantages you want. You have to spend an action, which I didn't really say on each one of your turns. You get 2 actions, and then there are some actions that are defined as free. I'm not going to get into too much detail about that. It's in the rules. But It takes an action to draft one. If you want another one, you can only have one at a time. You have to spend an action to get rid of it, and then you can spend an action to get another one either now or in a future round for yourself. But these allow you to legally cheat, and they create a lot of variability. Okay? When you draft one, they slide over. You're going to draft another one. They cost more as you get farther away. That's a thing in the rules too. And at the end of each turn, they're going to cycle. First one goes to discard, and they all push. So you got all these different strategy cards that come out there, and they're going to change up, and you got to react to them. Maybe you want them now. Some are better at different parts of the game. Sometimes you can cycle, just spend an action to get rid of them all, and spend some money to keep your opponent from getting one. Okay, these random events, they come out at the end of every turn. Epidemic. If you're involved in a siege, lose any one unit and adjust the battle track accordingly. You'd put it back in your Empire deck, so you'd have to redraft it and go through your discard. If this does not apply, then reduce one of your developed locations to a town. On Carthage, you roll a die. On 1 to 3, it's Carthage. 4 to 6, it's Rome. If you had that Devotio card, it would shift one in your favor. Some of these are good, some of these are bad. One lets you recruit a free neutral Empire unit over here. Over here, you have some neutral empires that either side can draft from. You can get one of those for free. Some make you money. Some limit the actions you can do. Some make you pay a bunch of money for your hired mercenaries, or you're going to lose a bunch of them. Now, this is an asymmetrical game, not as much as Acres. It's not like one side has tons of money and the other doesn't. They make money in different ways. Roman units, it's interesting, they have very strong units. Carthage has cheaper units. Generally they do. But Carthage units have, by and large, this symbol on it. It means they can be bribed. Now the infantry doesn't. They're Carthaginian infantry, because these come, that has a little colonist you need. They're like homegrown. They're loyal. But the hired thugs, if you will, can be bought. Libyan cavalry, Libyan spearmen, Ligurian infantry, they all have the symbol. Some of these cards say that they may bribe or block a bribe. What that means is you put it out there, you spend a coin and say, I want to bribe you. And if they have a card with that symbol in their hand or their reserves, they have to lose one of them. If they don't, you just lost your coin. But it is a way that it doesn't put in the discard, it sends them back to the Empire deck. So that can be very hurtful. You have cards that block them, cards that cause them. Some of the strategy cards affect how you bribe. But anyways, Carthage had cheaper units, but they relied a lot more heavily. Like 2, that's a pretty cheap card. They relied a lot more on the mercenaries. So Roman units tend to be a little more expensive, but they're a whole lot less of them can be bribed. You got cavalry. For instance, if you're familiar with Acres, the Native Americans that can raid, they raid with this. The bribe, like I was talking about, that's similar to the ambush in Acres. So anyways, you got leaders. Well, let me cover combat here real quick. When you move, it's like you're trying to move into an area like I showed you, except it has the opponent's piece on it. So you move. So that's more or less the difference between settling and attacking. Let's cover combat here real quick. Like I said, just set an example up here. Just move some pieces around. Let's say Carthage wanted to attack Agrigentum. Rome has her unit there. If it wasn't there, they could just move in and settle it. But Rome's there, so now you got to fight them for it. So you, just like I showed you earlier about playing the location and the cart connection, but then you'd follow it up with a unit with swords, or if you have sea control, you can put ships in. I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, when you first do it, when you first attack, you got this combat meter here. So for Carthage, this is Rome. This is Carthage advantage. You immediately start 1 on Rome side, -1 if you will, because that's like the inherent defense of the city. Say I put in a Carthage heavy infantry. That's 2 swords. It's going to move 2 in my direction, and then for my second action, because you get 2 actions, I'm going to put in a Numidian cavalry. That's 2 more swords. So it goes that way. Then my turn is over. When it comes to your turn, if the marker's in your area, you automatically won. So Rome's sitting there thinking, I got to get that thing at least down to the gray neutral or I've lost. So Rome counters, and you're not going to throw them out on the board. You got your little sections, but it's just kind of tight here to be over here. Rome counters with a legion, so that moves it 2 in that direction. And he doesn't have a lot of cards, so he's kind of stuck there. Carthage comes back on his turn, puts an elephant out there, rolls it. Oh, he got a 6. He moved up 3. Rome comes back, and in their draw, they managed to get their V-lights. They're one sword, and then you roll again if elephants have already been involved, and if you get the right roll, 50% chance you get a second sword. Well, he did. Yay. For a second action, he throws an allied infantry. It's a heavy unit. It says 2 strength when defending, 1 strength when attacking. That's pretty cool. So he's defending, so it goes back 2. And you put your marker down to point where you're fighting at, and each time it comes back to the guy who's attacking, he advances this. You've got, on a regular, what's called an open battle, 4 rounds to win this sucker. If nobody does, it's a draw. If there's a fortress in the area, you get 6 rounds. Fortresses are also going to have an inherent defense. It's going to push your marker, not just 1 for the defense of the city, 2 more for the fortification. Here's what a fortress marker looks like. You put a a little far away. Okay? You put it down there with it. You have to play a fortification card with the town and spend money to do this. It also makes it where raids you cannot raid into or through a city that has a fortress on it. So if you ends up on your side at the start of your turn, you won the battle. You move your prestige marker up a point. So if Carthage had managed to pull this off, they'd move up their prestige a point. You take away the city if they won. If they lost, nothing happens they don't like loser city. And since that has a colonist, they'd immediately have to play a colonist card, and they could put their piece in. If it was down here at Camarina, they wouldn't need the colonist. Just put your piece in, you won. Take the Roman piece, stick it in your captured area. Fortress goes back to the fortress pool, and you're going to score points for winning that. So that's how the combat system works. Now let's talk about the naval aspect, because this is another unique part to this game. You got these naval fleet markers here. Turn them on their side so you can see. And right here, this just tells you their location. It's not like you're going to split the fleet up. It's just a general locator. And then this will tell you the strength of your fleet. So I have it set now for Carthage for 4 and Rome for 2. You can spend an action to move to one of these sea zones. You can go to your home port, or you can move out or go to a connected. This is not connected. You got a line and a line. So you could do that. Okay? If you go over here, and let me give Rome a piece. You can't move piece around. I just don't want to reach across to grab that. Rome has a piece up here. Carthage has a piece down here. Right now, Carthage is in supply. The way you do supply, you start at your home base. Carthage for them. Every connected place on the road is in supply. Same with Rome for the Italian peninsula. Over here on Sicily, Lilybaeum has a supply marker. Carthage starts with it. Syracuse is potentially one for Rome. The reason it's yellow is they start neutral. Rome has to conquer them. Carthage theoretically could. It would take 3 entire turns. Not 3 rounds, but go inside Carthage going through their deck 3 times. So Rome is not going to sit around that long. It's worth 3 victory points, which is a lot. But once Rome conquers this thing in battle, then they pull it aside. They don't score a victory point for that or prestige. Put their own marker in. Now it's a supply source for Rome, so they can supply by ground here. There are no supply sources over here in Corsica, Sardinia. So you have to supply by sea. The way supply works is a little backwards of what you might be used to. You're not opening supply, you're cutting supply to the other guy. So Carthage has a ship up there. Rome's supply is cut. They can't get to the sea. They can't get back to their supply base. So the Ilaria card, if it was in the Roman player's hand, it's a dead card. You can't do anything without a supply locations. If you attack that area, you can't put cards into the battle because you can't get reinforcements there. So that would be out of supply. Now if Rome moves their ship into it, they've opened up supply. You're not denying. Okay? Carthage moves out. Rome now has cut off Carthage's supply. If Rome moves out, nobody is cutting anybody off, so they're all in supply. So you got this maneuvering to cut it off. When Carthage ends their turn and you add up victory points, if it was like this, Rome would not score for Ilaria. So there's this big aspect to the sea battle. Now once you get them in the same area, you play a card with a ship symbol. Here's an example. So most of them are on locations, but I have this trireme card. Okay? You play that and say, I'm going to start a naval battle. This is pretty cool. Very dice. There's no deck building. He tried this originally with deck building. It did not work. We all told him it didn't work, and he came up with this really neat system. You take the number of... the first thing you do is you go through your hand of cards. Now, I'm holding the Empire deck, and bear with me. Pretend it's my hand. If you have any leaders in here, okay, generals, mercenary generals, consuls, praetors, dictators, the attacker declares if he's going to put any in first, then the defender. So Rome's going to throw him in there. Okay, you add up your ships. So in the case of Carthage, they have 4 ships. Rome has 5. Carthage has declared they're not putting anything in it. You roll dice for each ship. So Rome would roll 3 dice, hit on 5 or 6. Carthage would roll 4 dice, hit on 5 or 6. Rome rolls 1 sword for all the leaders. The consul and the dictator, they hit on 4, 5, and 6. Then there's a pretty special card, if you know your history of this region, a strategy card Rome can draft. It's called the corvus. It's basically a giant plank that they'd pull up next to you, cut the cord, it would slam into your deck and dig in with the big spike, and then they'd run across and conquer you with swords. It's like a moving platform for ground, because that was their specialty, was melee. If you have any infantry in your Roman reserve, at that point, you can then pull them out, 1 for every ship, up to that amount. They hit on various numbers. Light infantry on 5 through 6, heavy infantry on 3 through 6. If Rome has that corvus card, so it makes them pretty darn powerful, because Rome owned the sea when they had that thing. If you win the battle, you get to add 1 to your side of your ships. You know, you're each going to take off how many ships you lost. Rome gets to add 1 because it's like they took over one of the enemy ships. If one side is sunk, they automatically lose. If both sides are sunk, draw. If otherwise, it's whoever lost the most loses, and then you have to retreat to a zone where you have a port in supply, or else back to your home port. And then the winner is going to get a prestige. The generals, the dictators, the heavy duty generals, long story, they're going to go to the Empire deck. Generals and legions that were in there for corvus will go to the discard. If Rome starts off with, let's say, 8 ships, 8 infantry, and they lose at the end, they have 6 ships, they got to send 2 back to the Empire deck. It's like their guys drowned. So this is the naval aspect of it. Now you're thinking, hey, wait a minute, Rome has something way too powerful with that corvus. There are random events in there that cause you to lose ships. More likely to happen to Rome naturally. 1 to 2, it hits on Carthage. 3 through 6 on Rome. If the corvus is in there, it shifts another in their favor. And the losses are worse. The reason why is it made the ships top heavy. Carthage is already better sailors. And then that makes those ships top heavy. So Rome is a whole lot more likely to take huge losses, as they did in the war. I mean, there's one card you lose all your ships. And you think, oh, I could lose the whole game on that. No, it's just a setback. Rome has ways to build ships quickly. It's a setback. It's not a game breaker. You have to learn how to live and react and manage the risk of this. But it did happen to Rome that they lost almost their entire fleet due to a bad storm. So that's how you handle the naval aspect. So you're cutting supply, and if, for instance, Carthage is here and they're attacking here, Rome cannot put ship cards into a ground battle because they've cut off the supply. They'd have to move their fleet marker down. So there's this whole aspect going on here of control of the sea. Usually we find, when I've played, about 3 sea battles, sometimes more, but generally about 3 really good ones that go on. They'll move the prestige marker, which gives you victory points, and you have slugfest down here. Carthage starts here and starts expanding upwards. Rome moves over, so you're button heads here, you're button heads here, and you're just fight. Anyways, you go through all this. The way the game ends is there's 3 ways, maybe 4, let me add them up. The one that never happens, never seen it happen, is Rome has their piece on Carthage, or Carthage has Rome. The reason that's so hard is because Rome would have to go up here, work their way all the way down the peninsula, and then I think that lets them move into Hippoacra, and then they'd have to move here and move here. Each time you're cycling through your deck, so it'd take many turns to do this. Then you have to keep sea supply up, or else Carthage builds a bunch of ships, and now you can't reinforce a battle and you're toast. So it's very, very hard, as it was historically, to invade the other guy's home turf. Up here for Carthage, I think they'd have to move it to Olbia, then go to Cosa, and then try to move to Rome. And anyway, so that's one way of doing it. Never seen that happen. Another is 12 turns. It's like Carthage went through their deck 12 times. Another way is if somebody controls all the locations in Sicily, game over instantly. Doesn't mean you won, you just game over, add up the victory points. Okay? The other one, if you take over the other guy's home capital, that's auto victory. Taking over Sicily or ending the game on turns, just stop the game. The other way is there's a random event that says if you're on turn 9 or later, roll a die. If you hit this number, it's like a negotiated peace. Both sides are kind of worn down and ready to negotiate. Anyway, so those are the 4 different ways to end the game. Then you add up victory points. At that point, you've been keeping this running total. Every time Carthage ended their deck, you go through, stop, add up victory points on the map of places you've conquered. So you got this running total. Then at the end, you get your last splurge of victory points. Every developed location gets 1. Now, all along, all they've done is make you money. Haven't done anything for victory points. But you get 1 for each one. Oh, one more thing I forgot to add. If either side runs out of house markers, which never happens, or either side runs out of the big house markers, the developments, game stops right away. That's a possibility. I've seen it happen once for Rome, a few times for Carthage. Anyways, each one of those pull you a victory point. Whoever has majority control of the locations in Sicily scores 5. Whoever has the most in Corsica, Sardinia has 2. You get a point for every point on your prestige marker. And there might be something else I'm forgetting. Anyways, you add all that up, and then whoever has the most victory points wins. Oh, a few more ways to end the game. Sorry, one side gets up by 25 or more victory points, or one side reaches 90. Mercy rule, if you will. Anyway, so those are the various ways to end the game. And that is that's a nutshell. There's a whole lot more to this game I haven't got into, but this is kind of showing. If you have some Acres background, you'll recognize parts of it. There's still a whole lot more strategy cards, event cards, different things like this. The sea aspects, there's a lot more to it. But that's just kind of an overview of how this is played.
All right, we're back. So you've seen the master explain how this lays out. Now, he and I actually played a ton of Few Acres of Snow. Why don't you take over and explain maybe first off how it's same but different, and then you can explain Vassel and everything else, and we'll give our opinion on what we like.
Okay.
You like this, I take it.
I love it.
I've only played one quick kind of intro thing where we played about half game. I like it. To me, I was expecting maybe, I got used to that Few Acres of Snow where there's not too many dudes on the board and you're kind of venturing out. And then the different techniques, and this is much more combat focused. Mm-hmm. But go ahead.
Okay. If it's always easier for me to teach people who have played Acres, because settling, developing, you recognize raids, ambushes in Acres are bribes in this game. So if you see the footprint there. As one of the comparisons I always made is We the People is the first of the card-driven war games Mark Herman created. Hannibal was the next step up. Then you could say Paths of Glory, or Wilderness War is a good one. You see similarities, but yet they took off in their own direction, and that's what this one did. The naval aspect of this part, the prestige, the strategy cards, the random events, having turns in this thing. The whole scoring, the focus, where in Acres it's spread out, especially at France, spread out, get your pieces on the board. Bart and I played a game where we never fought one time. Mm-hmm. You're not getting out of this game without fighting. You won't get out of turn 2 or 3 without fighting before you're already slugging.
Well, it's tighter. Right off the bat, I told you, wow, it feels tighter, and it threw me at first because I was playing Rome, but I had a ton of buildings already on the board, and you're like, well, yeah, Rome was developed.
Yeah.
And so that threw me at first because I was expecting kind of that expansion phase feeling, which you get a little bit, but that's more moving down to Sicily.
Yeah, if you think about it, you're not in a brand new world trying to find the great unknowns. Mm-hmm. This is already known. You win by whipping the other guy. So you expand your empire and punch him in the mouth, and that's how you're going to win this game. So take control of the sea, cut his supply off, beat him in the land battles, expand. You're only going to score, you don't score victory points for what you had at the beginning. Whoop-de-doo, that's already you only get it for the glory of war, prestige. Klingon type of stuff.
Because I should have mentioned, the First Punic War is where this
Yeah.
is set for those, and Hands in the Sea, which you intrigued me with this when you first even told me about this. You're the one that put this on the radar when it was in development, that Hands in the Sea was Rome basically saying Carthage can't even
No, it's the other way
It's
around.
the other way around.
Carthage
Sorry,
has
saying-
such a
that's
demand
right.
of the sea. They said, I don't remember who it was. It's on here actually. So the quote that they said basically we were going to own the sea so much Rome won't even put their hands in the sea.
Bingo.
Yeah, the way I got into this was 2012. Right at the end, I got Dan's first game, Caesar's Gallic War, on a sale. Saw it, flipped over, wrote him, said, "Hey, can I make this in a Vassal module?" And he's real cool. And I started learning how to make Vassal just because of that. Fast forward 2 months later,
Real
January.
quick, Vassal's online virtual gaming.
Yeah, it's a way to play board games online. It helps for big monster games or niche market, especially war game, where you can't. It was harder to get a gamer because they're long games or something. You play people. I played them all over
Play
the
by
world.
email.
Yeah,
Right.
play them live, play them email.
Just to throw out what Vassal is.
Yeah, sorry, don't.
No,
I hate
it's good.
acronyms.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, about January 2013, a couple months after this, after I'd flipped for Caesar's Gallic War, he puts this post in the war game forum about this game he's developing based on a few acres of snow. Has a picture of the map. His sister had drawn the original map, and it's gorgeous. Like, you got this acres with sea battles. Okay, I'm there. Because in the French and Indian War, Britain owned the seas. There's not a sea battle aspect to it. So anyways, so yeah, I wrote him and said, "Hey, you need a play tester?" And I was thinking if the game never come to light, I'd at least get to play a game. And I loved it when I played it. And then I made the Vassal module and played him over and over and through this, and he had other play testers he worked with. But yeah, we'd work and tweak, and basically the goal in this thing was like every strategy card. This one's not getting drafted enough. This one's getting drafted too much. We were trying to make them all of equal value, not necessarily at the same time. Some cards you want to draft, and then he would create most of these cards where you wanted them all. There was was it the trader? I think the guy in the canoe on Acres. The British don't ever draft that dude. I never took the ships as the French. Now I'm no master of that game, but there are some cards you just don't draft. These you want them all, but if you draft them all,
Now on that
your
note,
deck's too thick.
because let's hit a couple things. Halifax Hammer.
Oh, Halifax Hammer. Yeah, that's a
Now,
fair question. Everybody
so,
wants to know.
Few Acres comes out. Everybody's digging on it because deck building was huge. It's a war game-ish, Euro-ish, deck building kind of combined. And then pretty quick, someone figures out there's a Halifax Hammer, and that if you do it, it can't be stopped, and people start saying it's broken. Now, even after they said it's broken, you and I played the heck out of this.
I can still play. I can't run the hammer. I know the theory behind it.
Right. And if you want, you can just say you can't do the Halifax Hammer.
Yeah, I
and
hear
then
people
play it.
talk trash all the time on us. Like, I never met anybody who could do it. But
But knowing this going in, is there, I know gamers will get in and try to explore it and attack it or figure
Yeah.
out or see if there's a loophole. You've done a lot of development on this. Obviously, you had the Halifax Hammer in mind. And so what did you do to kind of...
Well, when that happened, Martin Wallace never saw it coming, that they would hyper thin their deck the way they did in that thing to make it happen. Dan knew about it. He knew how to pull it off, so he knew how to design it out of the game. You try hyper thinning your deck in this game, and it'll kill you. I tried hyper thinning, and I just stalled. I couldn't move anywhere on the board. It was just painful. The other thing is the sea supply. There's not any direct connections into Rome or Carthage. You hit in, and the time you cycle through and get to where you can move to the next point, and the next point is about 3 or 4 turns to actually pull this off. Like the fastest route's like 4 or 5 turns from Rome to actually get to Carthage. They got to keep winning all this, and they got to control the sea the entire time. Because once your sea supply's cut, you can't reinforce in the battles. It becomes very difficult to block raids. So he's designed this in, and historically, Carthage never invaded the Italian peninsula. Rome only invaded North Africa once, and it wasn't successful. So anyway, that's how he saw it. He designed it to be historically accurate in that aspect and pulled it off. And we tried and tried and tried and tried all these different ways to do it and never could. So that was the advantage, was he knew it was there, Martin Wallace didn't.
Interesting. And then you told me right from the get-go, hey, this is leaning towards deck building war game.
Yes.
Deck building war board game. And I'm like, okay, because that told me a lot. It's going to have that deck building feel, that few acres of snow kind of thing, but it's much more focused on kind of dudes on a map fighting over territory.
Yes. I mean, the first time you settle an area, Rome and Carthage, it's Thermae and Tyndaris. Boom, you're right next to each other. Let the raiding and the battles begin. There's none of this, oh, it's going to take me 3 or 4 to get there. You're right in each other's face.
One of the neat things was at first I felt like, wow, it feels like there's not a lot of movement, or the map's small, but you've got, as you get into battles or raiding, you've got a prestige bar that's going to give you victory points at the end of the game.
Every time you win a battle, you move the prestige marker.
And only at the end of the game is Sicily worth 5 victory points.
If you control the majority of it.
And then I forget what the other little
Corsica, Sardinia.
Yes.
Corsica,
and so
Sardinia.
there were 3.
Yeah.
And then along the way, after each round, which you've seen already in his description, your cities that you're controlling are giving you
Well, not the developed cities like
Right.
in acres where they double.
the ones that you've
Yeah, you get
conquered or
nothing
settled.
for making your own territory prettier. You get it for what you've done in the other territory, either what you've whooped off the other guy and taken to his, or the neutral territory you've got on your side. So it's progressively building victory points. One of the mistakes you can make in this game is not get out there and quickly enough, and then you start falling behind, 8 to 5 every time the turn happens, and suddenly you start, this happens on your victory point meter, and once it hits 25 or more, you've automatically lost. And then you're desperately trying to catch up and conquer him, take it back, and then they're trying to stall you out.
Kickstarter game, very successful on Kickstarter.
Yes.
Those are shipping now, right?
Yeah.
As of 2016.
This is
nearly
August
September.
29th.
Yeah.
I got mine last Thursday.
Beautiful.
So I want to make this real clear. I didn't get anything for this up front. I'm not with Nightworks. I'm not making any money. I promoted the heck out of this game, but it's because I love the game. I wanted to see it out there. I had my playtest copy. My daughter even asked me, "Hey, why are you so happy? Don't you have this?" I said, "Well, I got a homemade version. I'm just happy to have this. It's so pretty."
Yeah, because you brought this up on Hamtag, which is our War Game Top 5 show.
I brought it up 3 different topics.
Because
My
I
favorite
think
Ancients game.
2013 was the first time that it was something you were looking forward to.
Yeah, and I don't think he had a publisher then.
Okay.
I was creating a little buzz for it, and it really was the game I was most anticipating. And then we had another most anticipated. Then by the time he had the publisher and it was happening, we did our top 5 Ancients, and it's been my favorite Ancients game. This has been, since I started playing it, one of my 3 favorite games. The other 2, Washington's War, Empire of the Sun, if you know my man crush on Mark Kerman, that's pretty high praise. So it's generally bounced at number 2 to 3, Empire of the Sun, and it just shuffling back and forth. So
It was
how
like
much-
Christmas when he was saying, he kept telling me it's coming, it's headed.
It's coming
Yeah.
up.
And here's the interesting thing about when you factor in this deck building into your game, and most of my experience, because I've only got one play of this in, is with Few Acres of Snow, but even with that Halifax hammer on there, I wasn't worried about it, because every time this was, it's a type of game where there's so many different strategies that I would get caught up, and I know you get caught up as you're playing, you're thinking, next time I'm going to try doing this. And the cards that are added particularly into here, the random events that are going to happen, there's this, how many total random events are there again?
I think there's 16 random events and 15 strategy cards.
And so
Those are backwards.
those are going to factor in, and then you've got the strategy cards that are kind of giving you player variability every time you sit down and play.
Yeah, you can't walk out and say, "I'm going to do this." There's a few program moves. Carthage's very first move is we're pretty much going to do that every game. If not, it is. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Has to do with the money. Anyways, you think you can do it? Because then the random event comes up. You might say, I got to take sea control of Corsica, Sardinia, because I got this great plan. Then you play a game and the naval disaster happens to you and you lose your whole fleet. And it's like, whoa, that kind of screwed up what I was planning on. You can recover from that, but it's not this whole, I'm going to do A, then B, then C. You got to react. You got to know your plan. You got to react to what the other guy's doing. He may be going heavy on the cavalry and saying, "Oh, he's going to raid like crazy," or maybe he's building up for the sea battles, or you can see he's getting the fortifications up, things like that. So it's varying. You got to react to him and the strategy cards and the events. That's why when I playtest as Dan, he beat me all but once. I mean, he was just always better, and he could thin that. He knew how to turn that deck way better than me. It took me a long time to figure that out. But it's all about reading and reacting to everything and implementing your plan. A random event doesn't kill you. It's just a setback you got to deal with.
And the real nice thing about getting deck building in to this game is that, just like a few acres, you can see what he's bringing into his discard. So you know, the next time he shuffles, it's in there somewhere. Where will it come out? I don't know. I better start adjusting right now to what you're also doing. However, how am I going to pull off what I want to do if I'm only adjusting to you? And that's the beauty of bringing the deck building element into here. It's a slower, I always call it a slower deck builder. My boy loves Pokemon and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, there's no preset decks here. You're developing, you're building that deck.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's a slower pull than, say, Star Realms.
Yeah, I mean, that's a filler.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, Star Realms, if you and I play, I can look at the map and say, you ought to draft that card. You're going to draft that card. I can see your strategy coming out.
I got to kill this. Sorry, I had to get the AC off.
Okay.
All right.
I was talking about Star Realms. Oh, we can play Star Realms, and I can sit there and look at it. And most times I can say, you're going to draft. I know you're going to draft that card. If you know how to play. If you don't, it's because I play better than you, because I played like 1,300 times on my phone.
Right.
But part of the gripes on the deck builders is the move's kind of obvious. And I can say that about a lot of them. This one, there's no obvious move. I saw Dan try tons of different strategies. Well, today I'm going to, he'd think I'm going to do this one, or he'd see a card pop and thought, I want to play around with this card and see what I can do.
Well,
with
a normal deck builder, you're adjusting to the cards that are able for, what's the most optimum move and does it work with what I'm trying to do in my deck? Whereas this is, what am I trying to do on the board? What strategy do I want to use to do what I want to do on the board? And then I'm bringing those cards in, which is almost kind of just like real life. You can't raise a legion in a second. You're raising a legion, they're going into your deck, and as if you're telegraphing, if there's intelligence or whatever, you're going, hey, I hear Rome's raising a lot of legions,
well,
or they're training cavalry.
Remember, you can put them on top of your
That
deck.
is true.
It costs a ton of money, and they know what's happened. I did that to Bard.
I love that though too.
Yeah, I did that in our game. I thought he has nothing to stop a raid. I had a ton of money. I pulled a cavalry on ready to raid him, not knowing he had one. Because you got to pay attention to everything they're doing. So
I was real weak on being able to stop a raid, but it just so happened I had that card in my hand. And that's what's nice. He's spending a lot of money to basically kind of like hire mercenaries to come in and start to mess with me right away. And it just so happened I was able to stop it. And you could see the wind come out of him a little bit because he's like, wow, that was expensive and it didn't do anything. And I'm like, yeah. But I was going to raid him. So you were able to prevent my raid, even though, so there's this real nice thing. But that's where the deck building's real nice here.
yeah, because like a lot of deck builders, it's like, which one of these 5 cards do I want? And this one, it's all available to you. Mm-hmm. How do you get the money to get them there? When do you want to get them there? So it's not you're reacting to what can I do with this limitation. Oh, the card draw got me. Card draw was always there. Right. It's how you wanted to build it for your strategy and how you react.
All right, so I dig it. I've got to admit, Ancients isn't as much as my interest is, and I know it is yours. Mm-hmm. You dig all the inner history, whereas I'm not as much on the history of this particular conflict, but I definitely love the fact that this form of a few acres of snow deck building's back.
Yes, there is a companion guide for this. I don't remember. I think you might be able to download a black and white PDF online. I can't remember. Or I think it's like $5, you can get an original hard copy. Check it out. He goes into the background of these cards, gives you more detail or why this card was this way. The designer notes are excellent. There's also like a little expansion pack that adds there's like some toned down random events if you don't like it. But the real big thing about that is it has this maintenance cost on strategy cards. Get it. It's worth that alone. If you're not playing with that, you're really missing out. But
production values are phenomenal. The board artwork is gorgeous. That really, because I'd played the game before, I should mention, I played the game before just only once with this version. I'd played your print and play. So when you opened this up and put the map out, I was like, wow.
Yeah, my print and play was funny because I had pieces from Conquest of the Empire in it and little Monopoly houses and hotels. So I had it pimped out, but it's nothing compared to this.
And the map's gorgeous. Off top of your head, do you know who the artist is that did the map art? If not, that's fine.
Jamie Noble Fryer.
Okay.
I got a Facebook comment from him. He liked my picture I put up and asked
Yeah,
to put it.
I mean, the map draws you in, and then you've got, I don't know, DNA or something. What do you?
Yeah, this is okay. When they were coming out with the Kickstarter and they were just hitting every stretch goal. Okay, let's make special pieces for this, special for this, for the Rome. We'll make one for Rome and Carthage special pieces, and everything kept passing.
Were those exclusive stretch goals, or are they in the? Do you know? Were they Kickstarter exclusive?
They were Kickstarter exclusive. I think you can buy them for your game.
So now you can go get.
Yeah, you can get them, but it's going to cost you if you didn't do the Kickstarter. Gotcha. But they are really nice looking. But anyways, at this point, Don, the guy who writes it, he wrote me, said, "Do you have any other ideas?" And I said, "Well, I guess you could put a piece of a lock of Dan's hair in there, so I could clone him and then play him all the time." So when I got my copy in the mail, he put in a lock of Dan's hair. But this is my special benefits. You see, it does have its privileges. But no, I did not make any money off of this. I bought my Kickstarter copy just like everybody else did. And if you're thinking, "Oh man, they stiffed," no, I wouldn't have it any other way. I wanted to support him financially, and I wanted the game. So
just so everybody knows, Judd is big on. He does not want review copies.
No, I got asked about it. I don't take them.
Yeah, he will not take a review copy. Which I've already told you guys. A lot of games I buy myself and I review, but I also do accept review copies. The difference is I don't care if you give me a review copy or not. If I want to review a game, I'll review a game and I'll give an honest opinion. My only joke on this is apparently if you're given a review copy, you're not able to still be honest. Is that what you're saying?
I'm
just kidding.
I don't want maybe the topic doesn't interest me that much, or, "Oh, really? You put a 40-page rule book in there? Man, this thing's a slog."
Let's say that though.
Yeah, I was like, if I got the game, I had enough interest to research, say, "Well, I really like to learn." So I don't like them all, but I love this one. But that I had at least had enough interest to go seek it out on my own, and I didn't want to deal with the hassle. I hate rule books. I hate. This has a pretty darn good rule book, but I was there from the beginning. But anyways, that's why I hate reading rule books, and I only want to read rule books that I want to.
Oh, there you go.
I'd rather not read them at all.
Choose. So, yeah, this is not a review copy. This is his purchased
autograph.
Yeah, he got an autograph, and he's had a big hand in the development of this. But I love seeing this type of deck building resurface. Final words. Anything you want to add?
I'm just glad the dream come true. Dan, Don, congratulations.
And he's a big help for people on Vassel. I mean, if someone wanted to get a hold of you there, do you still pick up games? I don't want to throw that out there, but
I have. There's a few designers I've helped them with.
Not just for designers. I mean, like someone buys this and they want to play you this on
yeah, I've made like 40 some of them. I slow down a lot because I never get to play what I make.
Not even you're making. Just if someone bought this and they want to play this against you, you're open. I mean, you play pickup games all the time, right?
Oh yeah, I prefer live more than emails. This isn't going to work real good by email. The pace is going to be horrendous. I did a raid. Send the file.
Okay.
Oh, I blocked it.
That's great info.
So it's going to be great live, and I set that module up to be smooth and knock a whole lot of time off and automate for you.
All right, bonding with board games. It's the Chief and Judd. See you guys.